Before the internet, there were OnlyStores, okay? These were sex stores, also known as adult entertainment stores, and they were heavily regulated by the local councils on where they can conduct business. And so they were usually outside of the city limits and not in a heavy foot traffic area in order to prevent kids from easily seeing it. And so this gave parents a buffer. It was a buffer to delay a porn talk. Or if they did, they would simply say something like, that's a shop that sells items that are related to sex and masturbation and are designed to be used during sexual activity. I mean, if they even attempted to explain what that shop with no windows was selling, right, that was it. That was the porn talk. But now porn is in our home. It's in our hands and it's easily accessible by anyone, including our kids. So when a follower sent me this article titled How to Talk to Your 5-Year-Old About Porn and asked me for my thoughts, I of course have a few thoughts on why this headline is not only clickbait, but it is also using fear as the main motivator for this type of sex education. Moms and dads, if you are watching this, if you are afraid to talk about porn, if you are afraid to explain what porn is, then you are not ready to have the porn talk, okay? Or at least you're not ready yet. And this is one of the 3 main focuses in my parenting course for moms and dads like yourself who feel unprepared and uncomfortable, yet want to be confident in delivering a strategic message during the porn talk. Go on and fill out the form that is linked in the description as well as the comments, and let's talk. Let's see where you are right now in the talks and if my course is really the right fit for you now. And so when I see a headline like How to Talk to a 5-Year-Old About Porn, and the article guides parents to telling a 5-year-old that there are weird things on the internet like someone's private parts, and that's called pornography, I'm perplexed because it's advising parents to lie to their kid. There are pictures of private parts on the internet, on medical websites for diagnostic purposes, in documentary-style online magazines of clans and tribes and groups who do not cover their private parts. In art, including modern art and historical paintings and statues like Michelangelo's David, this is not porn. These are images of the genitals, and just because it's a private part doesn't make it porn. Initiating a porn talk or defining the word porn because you are scared that your child will see it is using a fear-based approach to explain what porn is, and I do not recommend it, and here's why. It is developmentally appropriate for a 5-year-old to be curious about genitals and to want to see their own genitals and the genitals of others. It's right here in the World Health Organization's International Guidelines on Sexuality Education. The learning objectives between 5 and 8 years old, it is important to know the names and functions of one's body, and it is natural to be curious about them, including the sexual and reproductive organs. And just below that, learners will be able to recognize that being curious about one's body, including the genitals, is completely normal. Because a child at 5 years old is taking what you say at face value. If you tell a 5-year-old that looking at private parts is pornography, they will most likely start to think that their own private parts are porn, and that looking at their private parts in a mirror is looking at porn. And that is not porn. If you're finding this video to be helpful or useful, go on and hit that like button or leave a comment letting me know. What I'm noticing is that there seems to be this kind of movement amongst a group of people. And this is my observation from having worked in this field as a sex ed teacher for a decade and have been in this field professionally for over 15 years. There seems to be in this movement that there is an enemy, and the enemy is porn. Now, the enemy is not the videos, but the porn industry as a whole. That seems to be the enemy. However, in this movement, the sex workers are not the enemy. The sex workers who are the porn performers are not the enemy because they are just doing this under circumstances beyond their control. What I'm hearing is that the porn performers are victims, and there is no way that they would want to perform sex if they had other opportunities. So it's this belief that porn performers are not really making a choice to perform sex, but they are being manipulated into performing sex. And so that's basically the vibe that I've been getting from this movement of adults who think porn is evil. This needs to be addressed and acknowledged without this overarching belief that porn is the enemy, because it's not all or nothing. There are adults who consent to perform sex within the porn industry. There are adults who consent to perform sex for their own personal viewing or for specific individuals. Like this would be like their own collection per se. And there are adults who are coerced and manipulated into performing sex. And only one of these is not porn. And so now you might be thinking, well, if it's not porn, then what is it? It's image-based sexual abuse. And it happens when an adult did not consent to sharing videos or images of themselves engaged in sex or masturbation or posed naked. So let's go through them. First one, adults who consent to perform sex within the porn industry. Is this image-based sexual abuse? No, this is an adult who is consenting to their pictures and videos being shared as porn. They have consented to that performance sex or that sexual image being taken and have agreed to a compensation for that. And whether that compensation is monetary or not, it has been consented to and agreed upon. Second, adults who consent to perform sex for their personal viewing or for the viewing of a specific individual. Is this image-based sexual abuse? No, or at least not yet. The adult has consented to recording themselves and has chosen who can view it. It is porn because it is images or video of an adult performing sex or masturbation or posed naked. However, if that image or video was now shared with others or uploaded to the internet without their consent, that is now image-based sexual abuse. The consent was to record the performance, not to share it or upload it. Third, adults who are coerced and manipulated into performing sex. Is this image-based sexual abuse? Yes, absolutely. This is awful. The perpetrators are awful. And this is never okay to do to any adult. And most importantly, this is not porn. The adults who are coerced and manipulated into performing sex are not consenting to it because they are being coerced and manipulated. You might hear this being called revenge porn, and this term is outdated. And anybody who is still using that term instead of image-based sexual abuse may not be aware that this terminology has been updated, because porn is consensual. Image-based sexual abuse is not. Therefore, going back to my observation of what I hear from many parents, that porn performers are not making a choice for themselves to perform sex, and that they are being manipulated into performing sex, needs to stop being said. It is not porn, it is image-based sexual abuse, and that distinction needs to be made. If you are watching this and you hear me say that there are adults who want to perform sex and then share their performance sex online, and your gut reaction is to say, no, there's not, there's no adult who wants to be in porn, you are still confusing porn with image-based sexual abuse. Let's go ahead and simplify it just a little bit more. Let's take images out of the picture, pun completely intended, and focus on video. Porn is when an adult consents to performing sex with another consenting adult or masturbates while being recorded with the intention of sharing it with others and online. There are some adults who want to perform sex and masturbation and share that video online, and that is porn. And there are other adults who would never want to do that, and there are probably some adults who haven't made up their mind. And so when I see an article like this that is encouraging parents to believe that a 5-year-old needs to know what porn is, and then doesn't actually provide an honest definition, it makes me wonder why. What is the motivation of this blog post? Who's writing this post? And what could they potentially gain from using a fear-based tactic in order to manipulate parents into believing that a 5-year-old needs to know what pornography means? I'll tell you what I tell my students. Know your sources. Know what they are selling and what incentive they may have to scare you into doing something that doesn't feel quite right. I have a 5-year-old and I'm currently in the midst of parenting this age, and I am having a lot of sex talks with her. We talk about where babies come from, and we use medically accurate names for the genitals, as well as using medically accurate names for the reproductive and sexual body parts. We talk about the different types of families that there are, as well as CSA prevention, and we're defining gender and gender expression and gender identity, as well as gender stereotypes. Because clearly there is a lot of information to cover at ages 4, 5, and 6 when it comes to having quote unquote the sex talks. And yet defining porn and what sexually explicit images are is not one of them. And you don't have to just trust me on this. You can trust the World Health Organization, who provided these international guidelines on sex education. Private parts are not inherently porn. And by trying to simplify this idea to tell a 5-year-old what porn is, you are most likely avoiding key components to their sex education at this age. If you want to know what is the right age to have the porn talk, check out this video. Or go and fill out that form that's linked in the description or comments, and let's get you prepared with the confidence to have the porn talks, and not just simply having a porn talk because you're afraid for your kids.